Good morning. Welcome into Five Clubs here on Golf Channel. You can also listen. That is Sirius XM's Channel 92. That is PGA Tour Radio. I am Gary Williams. You can tell, not the friendly confines of our studios in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am in Colorado Springs, day one of season 4 of the Underrated Tour, this great junior golf tour that Steph Curry brought literally right out of his mind, out of his heart, and out of the ground with great sponsorship. Speaking of which, we cannot do what we do without the great sponsors that we have here at Five Clubs, starting with Century Insurance, right by you. All of their great relationships inside and outside the game of golf, but in golf with the USGA and with the First Tee. Of course, Golf Pride, when it comes to grips, overwhelmingly, players at every level, starting with the best players in the world, trust Golf Pride more than any other grip company in the world. Peter Millar, this Pine Performance hoodie that I've got on right now, you can just go to petermillar.com and get it right now. And then, of course, Pinehurst, they got the north-south coming up. They got a great field there. But when it comes to going and planning a trip to do wonderful things and playing some of the great golf courses in America in the Sandhills of North Carolina, the cradle of American golf is where you should start. It is Pinehurst Resort. All right, John Wood's going to join us today. He is not only part of the NBC Golf broadcast team, he is also the team manager for the United States Ryder Cup team. How do I know he's ready to come on? Well, he's been in the virtual green room for 10 minutes already. And I'm in Colorado, he's in California, and he's already up, ready to go. So he's going to be with me in about 10 minutes. Then at the bottom of the hour, Tyler Ray is going to join me. And Tyler came into our studios, I don't know, it was roughly about a year ago, and we had a very lengthy conversation, not only on the live Golf Channel show, but we did an extended Five Clubs conversation for the YouTube channel about his career as a young, up-and-coming, one of the rising stars in the design business. And he has got a very important commission that he's getting ready to embark on literally Sunday night, because Detroit Golf Club, the host of the Rocket Mortgage, when it is done, is going to be turned over to him and his great team to do a restoration of that Donald Ross golf course. And they have 12 months to get it done, because the Rocket Mortgage is coming back there at the end of June of 2026, and it better be ready, similarly to what Jack Nicklaus has done at Muirfield Village. Gil Hanse did it more recently at Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth, Texas. So Tyler's team is going to be on the clock. So we're going to talk to him about the objectives, what the goals are, what are the things that they're going to try to restore there, but also a property that he's working on right now, an original Tyler Ray design as well, where he is originating from the state of South Carolina, which is the hottest state in America for great new golf course design. So those guys are going to join me coming up with John Wood here in about 10 minutes. But let me start with something that I think is very important as it relates to the PGA Tour, because when you look at professional sports, and I'm not saying this because somebody from the National Football League is getting ready to become the new boss of the PGA Tour, and that's Brian Rolapp, who is coming from the NFL as the second man really to Roger Goodell. And I'm not comparing the National Football League to the PGA Tour or vice versa. But what I'm saying is that scheduling now, when you look at professional sports, is more of a big deal to the fan bases than it's ever been before. The National Football League has turned scheduling into an event. Literally, them announcing when games are going to be played 3, 4, 5 months from now. They rolled out, and they did it in this way where it was like, please, sir, I felt like Oliver Twist. Like, please, sir, can I have some more? Can you give me another game? When they announced in May what the schedule was going to be, and they kind of gave you a couple games. And then at the end of the night, they rolled out the whole thing. And look, the NFL has got us just hook, line, and sinker. We're captive to everything they do. The draft has become a 3-day spectacle of individuals reading names off of index cards. I understand that you can't compete with that. But the NBA, they too try to do things that make certain parts of their schedule and their season particularly important, and appointment television. And they tried to do it with Christmas Day, and they kind of had it. And then the NFL said, you know what, we'll take that day too. And it doesn't mean that the NBA doesn't still garner an audience. But when you look at the PGA Tour right now and you look at that last Signature Series event that concluded on Sunday in Cromwell, Connecticut, and you go, okay, when's the next one? Sorry, that's it. The next time you're going to see the best players convene together, not only in this country of the United States, but on the PGA Tour and not at a major championship, is going to be in the month of August. And it doesn't mean that the Rocket Mortgage doesn't have a good field this week. They do. And the John Deere has a very romantic spot on the schedule. And they've always done, I think, an admirable job of understanding who they are, because the truth is there is a tier system on the PGA Tour. I mean, it happens in every sport. Some games are played on Sundays in the NFL at 1 o'clock. And if you play at 1 o'clock, like the team where I reside in Charlotte, North Carolina, does a lot, the Carolina Panthers, it means that you are part of the secondary system of the NFL. You're not at 4:25, and you're not at 8 o'clock on Sunday night or Monday night or Thursday night for that matter. So the John Deere does what they do. And now we're getting to where I'm going here. They've carved out a space because they're the last event before the FedEx Cup playoffs commence. And I've got a thought about them as well. I think the PGA Tour needs to take a very, very hard look at what their summer looks like and what the cadence of delivery looks like if these Signature Series events are going to continue. Because one, you only have one new sponsor that has signed up for an extended period of time to do what it is that the Signature Series is asking of those sponsors. And that is $20 million for the purse. And it's Truist. And Truist took over from Wells Fargo, which is at Quail Hollow. And they had their first event this year at Philadelphia Cricket Club. But they will return next year to Charlotte, which has been as good a market for the PGA Tour as any of the last couple of decades. And they have their spot at the beginning of May. And they need to be separated as best they can between majors. And that's a different conversation for a different day, because getting separation is not easy to do, because we have a couple of Signature Series events right after majors, right after the Masters with the Heritage, right after the U.S. Open with the Travelers. But what the PGA Tour needs to look at very hard is having the last Signature Series event before the first FedEx Cup playoff event, so that you don't have this period of dormancy. I love that. And they should look at examining more of that, particularly in the fall when it comes to the DP World Tour, and finding spots where great players can say, you know what, I'm going to go play the Dunhill Links, or I'm going to play the Irish Open. And even though it's football season, we can get an audience early on a Saturday and Sunday morning before football starts in America to watch Rory. And who knows, maybe some other top players as well play in those events in Ireland and Scotland. But the PGA Tour, I think, needs to examine making the last event before the playoffs a Signature Series event, and not what we have currently, which is 72 players. They need to expand the field and create more volatility. And it's not like the top 50 players and the best players in the world are in jeopardy of relegation and that they're not going to make it into the playoffs. They are. But that's why the playoffs and all these other sports have expanded, because there's value to wild card teams and having more there and leaving the door ajar for the underdog. So whether it's the Wyndham Championship, which right now, from what I understand, they're in a negotiation for an extension. And I don't know if they have the stomach to pony up what is required to be a Signature Series event. But I think that the last event before you go to the playoffs should be one where you're enticing the best players in the world to be there, but also making it 100 or 110 players, because those guys who are in that space right now, they're in jeopardy of not only not getting into the playoffs, but how about their employment going into next year? Because we know that we're going from 125 to 100. So I think the PGA Tour would do best to examine the way their schedule looks. And here's something else we'll talk about more when those playoffs roll around. I think the FedEx Cup playoffs need to establish a mini rota for all three playoff events. We kind of have it with the middle one, the BMW Championship, and Caves Valley will crush it this year. They crushed it the last time around. Castle Pines, fantastic. The Northeast corridor right now is void. We got Philadelphia because they needed a one-off. They need to look at Eastlake maybe departing from there. Doesn't mean you go away from it altogether. I think the end of July and August needs to be examined because here's the truth. Come September, you are an afterthought. And that's okay because you got to know your identity. And your identity is that football takes over. But before they do, your last hurrah should be a month long, kind of like the college football playoff system, which, by the way, John Wood, part of that NBC broadcast team, and also the team manager for the United States Ryder Cup team. What was he thinking Sunday? I know he was wildly excited to see Keegan Bradley win a golf tournament, but what does it all mean? And also, where are they right now in terms of their communication? How deep is the pool of players that still have a reasonable chance to be on that team? And his responsibilities, which are vast, if you do not know what they are on Golf Channel. And also, it is Channel 92. That is Sirius XM on PGA Tour Radio. We're back with John Wood right after this. Back in on this Tuesday, it is 5 Clubs. I'm in Colorado Springs for the Underrated Tours Season 4, Steph Curry's Great Junior Golf Tour. This segment is brought to you by Peter Millar. This Pine Performance hoodie I've got on, you can have it, including that 5 Clubs logo right there on it at petermillar.com. I mentioned at the top of the program, not only a big part of NBC's broadcast team, but the team manager for USA when it comes to the Ryder Cup. He joins me now, kind enough. I'm in Colorado. He's in Northern California. He was up. He was ready to go before we even started this program. I'm speaking of John Wood. My friend, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, Gary. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for doing this as always. Before we get to the captain and him winning that golf tournament Sunday, where are we with the process, with the staff and the level of communication? Give the viewers and the listeners an idea of how much chatter and how much due diligence and how many Zoom calls you guys are having on a weekly basis right now.
It's a lot more than anybody could imagine. Keegan's been incredible, so organized. I don't know how he's doing it, playing such good golf. And organizing all this and maintaining all the decision making. The PGA staff, they've done this. PGA has done this forever. It's interesting to see how much goes into it. Before, as a caddy or even a commentator, you're excited for it. You want to make the team in the worst way, but you don't know any of this stuff. So this is my first time getting to know what really goes into it. And it's amazing. It takes a city to get this thing going.
John, give everybody a sense of how impressive it is from your viewpoint. When guys are like in the conversation to be on the team, it's interesting to watch their performance because it's hard to compartmentalize knowing that you're part of the conversation and then you go out and you got to try to, play golf. Keegan Bradley's the captain of the team. And he's played well enough that he's been in the conversation, but he's the captain of the team. The captain of the team won the golf tournament Sunday. What was your view of watching that and seeing him do that?
I was thrilled for him, obviously. I love Tommy. Tommy's a great guy. I felt bad for what happened to him, but when Keegan got named, one of the first things I said to him was, look, Keegan, I'm not going to bring stuff to you the week of tournaments. When you're playing, I'm leaving you alone. We'll talk in off weeks. And he looked me right in the eye and said, I can handle it. So if you've got anything you want to talk about, say it. I can handle it. And he's proven that. I almost think that maybe it's become a little bit of his kind of place of comfort. You know, he's never been a Ryder Cup captain before. He's doing a hell of a job. But I think when he gets in between the ropes, I think it's become easier for him because, okay, I know how to do this. I've done this forever. And he's just playing great. And it's going to be, his name was already in the mix, obviously, to play on the team. And now it's front and center. So it's going to be a fascinating next couple months to see what happens.
I thought that the way that he has handled it and then verbalized his thoughts Sunday were really interesting and great as well. That just the fact that he said, I wasn't going to talk about this at all, and it was not going to be a talking point unless I won a golf tournament. And he won a golf tournament. Did he verbalize that to you guys, the staff, that in terms of how plausible it would be to be him being a member of the team, that one of the prerequisites was that he was going to have to win a golf tournament? Did he tell you that?
He didn't verbalize that exact thing, but he definitely hinted at it. He said it would have to be something really remarkable. I think ultimately what will happen is he'll talk to the 6 qualifiers, he'll talk to his assistants and maybe some other people and make a decision then when it is time to pick the final team. The way he's playing, I don't think it's out of the question he's in the top 6. But you mentioned how he talked about it yesterday. Every conversation I've had with Keegan since he was named, it's felt like he's thought about all of these things for 20 years. He doesn't hem and haw. He knows what he wants out of this team. He knows the vision. He knows what he wants. And it's been incredible for me to be a part of it. So I think, he didn't verbalize that exact thing, but you kind of got the idea that if he plays as well as he's playing right now, bottom line is he said he wants to take the best 12 American players to the Ryder Cup. And if he's one of those, I don't see why you don't take him.
Yeah, and this is where it gets interesting for me. And look, it doesn't matter what the topic is. I never try to arm wrestle somebody about the idea of somebody playing and being a captain. And every one of them is like, it's too big. The idea of being able to compartmentalize the things that you have to do as a captain. And oh, by the way, one of your primary responsibilities is to shield your team as much from all the outside noise as you can. So my question is, John, how can he be the best at both by trying to do both?
It's a good question. I think he's been amazing with the players in terms of communication, the caddies, the potential players on the team, to compartmentalize those two things. I think what ultimately, if we're getting down to the nitty gritty, and it looks like he's going to be a pick, I think what Keegan will do is probably have a big meeting with his vice captains, with myself, maybe with a couple of people from the PGA, and say, guys, I'm going to play, and here's how we're going to do things. And I think he'll probably maybe glean more information from us who've watched the other matches, and then he'll ultimately be the decision maker. He'll be the ultimate guy who ends up making that final decision. But maybe it'll be other people who gather more information for him. So-and-so is playing really well. So-and-so is a little tired. And then from that, maybe we can make some decisions. If he makes the team, my personal opinion, the most he would play is 3 matches, maybe even 2, depending on how he's playing at the time. But I think that would be the big key, is to get as many key people involved once that week gets here, to take stuff off his plate and simplify most of the decisions he's going to have to make, instead of him having to choose between 8 things. Maybe as the vice captains and I get together and talk, we can knock it down to 2 things for him, and he can go from there. So I think involving other people a lot, great assistant captains, and I think he'll do something like that should it come to that.
See, John, that is very practical, but that alone to me is kind of my point, is that, okay, he's already made a concession, and you're not saying he's going to do this, but let's say it's the idea that he's going to play less because he's the captain. Well, then he's less of a player. What if he wins his first match and he wins 5-4? You want to ride hot hands. So you're not going to put him back out there because he's the captain. You know what I'm saying? Like
Sure.
that to me is where the nimbleness of, and I go back to 2012 and when he and Phil were unbeatable, and then they sat out that session, and it's like, okay, I don't know the specific as to why that happened. I have my own theories as to why it did. Doesn't matter now. But if he's being limited and he's got, quote, like a pitch count, isn't that already a concession to him being different from the other 11?
Those weeks, Gary, you adjust. And if he comes in and feels like I cannot possibly miss a shot, I'm putting great, things will change. I'm just guessing that will be his attitude going in. I'll say this: when Tiger was the playing captain for the President's Cup in 2019 in Melbourne, he played 3 matches, but it was just inspiring having the captain play. I can't put a finger on it, but it was just he was one of us. He wasn't separate, and what he did. If you remember, we were getting smoked in that thing. By Friday afternoon, it looked like it could be 9-1, 8-2. But Tiger never varied. He was very comfortable in his team. He said, "Look, guys, by the end of Sunday, we're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. I'm not worrying about it." And I think Keegan will do the same thing. But I think Keegan's been through that. He knows what happened with Phil and hit them sitting out that Saturday afternoon match. So he'll be cognizant of that. And I think not just for himself, but for other players. If JJ Spawn is just on fire and they had planned on, sitting him Saturday afternoon, that can change. It's, you don't have to put the whole lineup out Thursday night. You get to see how people are playing. So it's all adjustments. And I think he'll probably have contingency plans for everything.
Yeah, I let me just make this very clear. I don't know how this TV show could get more interesting because it's one of the best TV shows in all of sports. It's not even a question. It would be fascinating if he did this. He would make it even more interesting, which is hard to believe that the Ryder Cup could become more compelling. All right, let me ask you a couple other things on that before I hit on one more thing before I let you go. Is there a scout trip planned when the team is pretty much in place? You guys have a window to try to get to Bethpage sometime before, whether it's post playoffs, pre-Ryder Cup?
We've talked about that. Right now, there is not. We're still discussing it, obviously. But Bethpage is unique in that everybody's played there. It's not going to be a new golf course. A lot of times when we go to Ryder Cups or majors, it's a golf course that nobody's seen before. There's a ton of extra work to do, not only for the players, but for the caddies. And Bethpage is not like that. I know almost everybody who's going to make this team has played a PGA or a playoff event or a U.S. Open there. So we don't feel like it's as necessary, but it's not off the table yet, certainly.
If I asked you the number of players who are still realistically in the mix, is it 20? Is it 25? Can you quantify how deep the pool is right now at the end of June?
It's tough to quantify, but I would say minimum 20. And then you got guys, last time I checked, I think Jordan was 25th, but I mean, if Jordan gets hot during the playoffs, that's a no-brainer of a pick. I mean, you got to take the guy. So I think it's probably in the ballpark of 25 guys still have a good chance to make this team. Not a good chance, but have a chance. So it's just going to depend on what matchups we want and who's playing the best when Keegan makes those picks.
All right. For people who don't know you well, you love interesting things, and when you make an investment in time into something, it must be good. ShotSense Golf. Explain to people why you've gotten involved with this. I'm curious as heck to know more about it. Explain to people what it is.
It's a new app. Brett Neville developed this application with a lot of his engineers. It is basically how it teaches you how to make better decisions on the golf course, like a caddy in your back pocket. It's something you can use on the course, but you can also pregame for it, plan your day out. Here's the golf course. Here's what I want to do. You input all your data. Is my club set up? Here's how far I hit every club. Here's my tendency miss. you put in all this, and you kind of go around courses and make decisions, and then it'll tell you, yes, that's the right decision, or no, it's not, or yes, but this, you got to think about this as well. It's my contention that most mistakes on the PGA Tour come when guys are in between or indecisive. And I think we saw that perfectly on the 18th hole with Tommy. He just didn't look committed to that last club. When these guys are so good and they know they've got the right club and they're hitting the right shot, there's a really good chance they're going to pull it off. So this is going to take this down to the amateur level, and including strokes gain stats, things like that. So you'll play the app, and you can compete, with your buddies and have these competitions and see who's making better decisions. But to me, it's one of the untapped resources of instructional golf. You can have playing lessons, but this is a way to get better, a lot better, without 20 lessons, without spending countless hours on the range. And it's simple, and it makes your mind much calmer on the golf course, because you've planned it all out already. And ShotSense Golf is it's going to be a fascinating launch, and I couldn't be more excited to be a part of it.
Good for you, John. You're awfully kind, gracious with your time to get up at the hour you did in the state of California. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it.
Anytime for you, Gary. You know that.
Thank you. That is John Wood, NBC Golf Team, and also that ShotSense Golf, that new app coming out. When we continue, Tyler Ray is a guy who is an emerging star when it comes to the design industry. He has been entrusted to do something special to his special property, which is the host site for this week's PGA Tour event. He's got his own original work that he's going to be coming to us from the state of South Carolina. We'll get his thoughts on that, because that is opening soon as well. He joins us. It's the bottom of the hour. It's a Tuesday. It is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel, also Channel 92, Sirius XM's PGA Tour Radio. Back with Tyler Ray right after this. Back in on this Tuesday edition of 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. You can also listen. That's Channel 92, PGA Tour Radio on Sirius XM. This segment brought to you by Pinehurst. Pinehurst number 11. Construction is going to start soon of that Cord Crenshaw Golf Course. Number 10, the new clubhouse and restaurant opening very, very soon. Of course, the cottages at number 8 available for you at the cradle of American golf. I know how much the guy who's joining me now appreciates Pinehurst and all that it offers, because it was Donald Ross's home, and he has been entrusted to do a renovation, restoration. He can explain exactly what it is to us, to a Donald Ross golf course that is playing host this week to the Rocket Mortgage. He's been kind enough to come in our studio in the past. He is, of course, Tyler Ray, coming to us from Old Sawmill, his new golf course. It's going to be opening soon, north of Charleston, South Carolina. Tyler, my friend, good morning. How are you?
Very well, Gary. Thanks for having us on again.
Well, thank you for joining me. You're busy. You guys, your team, you're out there trying to beat the heat at first light down there in South Carolina. And then you're going to be on the clock come Sunday night at Detroit Golf Club. For people who don't know exactly what it is that you've been commissioned, you and your team, to do, take us through the process of earning this opportunity and what exactly it is that you guys are going to do over the next 12 months.
Well, we were very fortunate, obviously, to be selected. This is a major, major task, a huge opportunity. It's something you dream about for sure. And it's perfect for us. I mean, Donald Ross is our bread and butter. We feel like we know him, out of the Golden Age architects, probably the best. And it's fun to work with the tour and see the best players on the planet, play our golf course next year. So it's a monumental task. We'll have everybody, all hands on deck, and it'll be a really tight timeline, Gary. Very condensed. It's in Detroit, Michigan. So obviously the year and the sun, everything's going to just creep in on us very quickly come August and September. Those days will get short. But yeah, we're really looking forward to it. You'll see my bulldozer maybe on Sunday, following the last group potentially. So we'll see how that plays out.
The renovation restoration part of your industry is very, very important, and so many of these golden age uh, golf courses, look, they don't need just a touch up. They need to try to be restored. And it's not from negligence or malpractice. Look, these are living, breathing things, and many of them are 100 years old. Explain to people, like, when you go before a board or a president, and in this case, a Detroit Golf Club, what exactly did you share with them about what it is that you think you can reclaim, restore, or renovate that will best serve that golf course over the next 50, 75 years?
Well, for the first time they reached out, from the onset, this was an infrastructure driven project. And what does that mean? That means that the irrigation was failing, 30, 35 years old. The greens were coming to the end of their life expectancy. Obviously, the bunkers were washing out, and the drainage was slowing up. There were huge clay tile pipes running through this property. It's a very flat property. Everybody, when you think of Detroit, it's right on the water, and it's very bland and insipid. The land doesn't have much movement. So there's a huge network, Gary, of underlying underdrains, massive pipes, 12, 18, 24, 36-inch pipes that were clay tile, meaning they were installed in 1926. So 99 years ago, and they have slowly failed and cracked, and the water isn't really draining off the property. So the club calls and they say, "Hey, we know we need to replace our infrastructure with these massive ticket items." That then gives us the opportunity to say, well, let's take a holistic approach and look at the whole property. What could we also undertake while we're fixing the drainage, and we're putting in a new irrigation system, and we're renovating the bunkers, rebuilding the greens? So there's 80% of the project right there. So what then can we tack on to make this really special? What's the story, right? Gary, what's the story we're going to sell to the membership? And then what's the story we're going to give, obviously, to the tour players and the media and the PGA Tour? So they're going to spend this money anyway. Let's thoughtfully renovate it, restore it back to some peak. So what we said, Gary, was let's find the greatest version of Detroit Golf Club North. So we said, okay, it's a 1914 Donald Ross. And then we look at periodic photos, we look at historic aerials, we look at ground level photography. And then we find out that the bunkers had this immense scale to them. They were deep, high sand flash, very different for normal Ross. So when people think of Donald Ross, they think, oh, okay, flat bottom bunkers, grass faced.
Yep.
What we see at East Lake and what we see at Oak Hill and, these golf courses on tour where Ross, designed the golf course. So this was very different. It caught our eye from the onset. We said, okay, this is special because this story is different. It's not the typical Donald Ross, bunkering, and the greens had a lot of flavor. Donald Ross just finished Old Elm in Chicago with Harry Colt, H.S. Colt, probably the greatest architect
Yes.
to ever live. That was 1913. He then comes to Detroit in summer of 1914, and it's one of his earliest master plans. It has October of 1914 dated on the plan. So we know this is very early Ross, but he has just gone through this transformational period with H.S. Colt, and he learned everything from the Grand Master who came over from England, because H.S. Colt came over to work on Pine Valley with Crump, and then to work at Toronto Golf Club, Country Club of Detroit, Detroit Golf Club, Old Elm in Chicago, a handful of select places. And then he came back the following year, H.S. Colt did. And so Colt only came to America for 2 trips, 1913 and 1914, and then never came back. He left and instilled everything in Ross. And so he really taught Donald Ross and took Ross to the next level. Because Ross emigrated 1899, comes over from Scotland. So the first 11 years, 12, 13 years of his career, up until 1913, he's kind of tinkering and working on golf courses. Colt comes over, teaches him everything he can, and then Ross takes off his whole career. So we're early in that takeoff zone, in his period where he's really creative and bold. And we see that. What we see now at Detroit, and I promise I'll finish here quickly.
Yeah.
It's a long answer I'm giving you here. But we see at Detroit, he comes in, gives them something really bold because the land is so flat. So he has these beautiful ditches, incredible hummocks and mounds, and he gets kind of three-dimensional with the characteristics out there. Big, bold fill pads for the greens. And so what we see over the years is everything becomes muted. So every restoration or renovation after that tones down the Ross flavor. So then we get to 2025 now, and we're 90 years removed from Ross's bold, beautiful work, and everything's been watered down.
Wow. I think you mentioned about your understanding of him. Look, you also uncovered something. It was kind of like the Lost Rainer at Lookout Mountain, which I've had the pleasure of seeing and playing, and it's so dynamic. Ross, I think, Tyler, people use the term like prolific, like he was so prolific. And it's like, what is that? I get it, but it's almost like saying, well, this guy was a compiler who, he got a lot of hits because he stuck around a long time. Like, you're diminishing his greatness. If you had to tell people what Donald Ross's most important design features or his contribution to what it is that you do, how could you kind of sum it up in a paragraph?
Well, I'd probably say in a short, succinct answer, his putting surfaces, his green complexes, they are so thoughtful. And I think he was one of the first architects early, like 1913, 1914, 1915, to start really injecting beautiful, thoughtful contour within the putting surfaces. Everything before that in America, and even if you go over to the British Isles, most greens in the British Isles are predominantly flat. In GB&I, Great Britain and Ireland, because of the wind, most likely. But in America, he was one of the first architects before Tillinghast, before Mackenzie came over, before Rayner, along with C.B. Macdonald, maybe with Walter Travis, those three. But they started really giving us thoughtful putting contours that then took the game to the next level.
The idea of tour players being at Detroit Golf Club 1 week out of the year, is that at all part of the conversation you have with the team entrusted to choose you, to choose your team? Does the PGA Tour come up at all as it relates to what it is that you're getting ready to embark on?
Well, for sure. They're a great team member. They've been phenomenal to work with. I am supposed to be there in meetings today, looking at everything with the PGA Tour. Luckily, we have Jim Ryan Jr., who's there, and Matt Fauerbach from our team. So they're in Detroit right now. I'm down here at Old Sawmill, unfortunately. I'm trying to finish this project, and we're sprigging the last set of 6 greens tomorrow. So I want my imprint on this perfectly before they're sprigged and seeded, that the grassing for tomorrow. So I'm supposed to be in Detroit, but working with them, they've given us kind of full leash, a lot of running room, to kind of do our thing. They trust us. We trust them. They have come at us with a couple, asks. Hey, can we think about concessions here? What about bleachers here? What about the road going through the golf course to maintenance? Can we preserve that? Can we shift the 18th tees? So we've had a lot of great conversations, but they just know, hey, don't build crazy greens, Tyler. Don't go over the top. And so we're going to be really, really thoughtful and really spend a lot of time trying to build great greens. And they have a pretty good set right now. We're going to take up the notch a little bit, but obviously it's a members golf course. And I know I've said this before with you, on your program a couple months ago when we linked up. It's 95% for the members, and this is a members club, and they love to play their golf. And we want this to be very special for them. It just happens to be a golf course that has the PGA Tour once a year for 1 week of the year. But we will endeavor to walk that tightrope and try to make it really thoughtful and fun for the members. And then a little better test for the PGA Tour players, and we want them to love it. We want them to enjoy it, but we don't want it to be goofy golf or over the top. And we anticipate them to really enjoy the work and it to be beautiful and well received.
Yeah, just looking at those renderings, again, the blending of the grasses with the way that you're going to build those bunkers, and I also that they have ditches and trenches, which I think are a fantastic feature as well. Very excited for you. Last thing, you mentioned Old Sawmill. Give everybody an update. I know that you've got, the drawings of your routing, your golf course, which is close, again, north of one of the great cities in the world, in a state that is on fire when it comes to golf. Where are we with Old Sawmill? We're close, aren't we?
We are. We have 9 holes open, Gary, and we have the other 18 probably slated for sometime in September or early October. We're hoping for September with great weather here. We've had a lot of rain, but it is very bold, big scale, big bunkers, big fairways, big greens, a lot of fun. That's the word. The key word is always fun, enjoyable. We want people to come back. We want them to really, be a thrilling experience and something memorable, so they enjoy it and they come back. That's why we play this game, right, Gary? To have enjoyment. We look forward to golf every week,
No question about it. Just seeing those pictures I know it gets a lot of people. There's a lot of architecture honks that I know watch this show. Appreciate your thoughtfulness. I don't know if you're going to be going to any Lions games this fall, but you're going to be spending a lot of time in Detroit. Thank you so much. As busy as you are to carve out the time, greatly appreciated as always.
Thank you, Gary. This has been great and always fun chatting with you.
Thank you. That is Tyler Ray. And that is brought to you by Century Insurance. Winning words when it comes to expertise and having conversations that allow you to advance conversations at the business level when it comes to covering all the things that are important to you. It is Century, right by you. When we come back, some final thoughts, including an event down the road from where I am. I'm at a junior golf tournament at the Underrated Tour, the vision of Steph Curry, but a USGA championship is being contested just down the road. Who is not there and who might be there next year? My thoughts on that when we wrap it up right after this. 5 Clubs on Golf Channel, on PGA Tour Radio's Channel 92 on Sirius XM. Welcome back in. Final couple minutes for us. Matt Adams and his program Fairways of Life to follow us back here again from Colorado Springs tomorrow. This segment brought to you by Golf Pride. When it comes to grips, whatever it is that you need, including the reverse taper putter grips, which are becoming a bigger deal, it seems like every day. I just got fitted last week for new clubs. The Align Max grips going on all of my new clubs. It is Golf Pride, the best grip company in the world. The U.S. Senior Men's Open is being contested this week at the Broadmoor, not far from where I am in Colorado. I have great affection for this event. It was started in 1980. Roberto Di Vincenzo won the inaugural event. And the following year, Arnold Palmer won it. Now, when this event was created in 1980, the minimum age was 55. And then they looked at Arnold's age and they went, well, he's not going to be 55 for a couple more years. Let's make this event 50, which it became. And he won it in 1981. So if you're wondering, why is the U.S. Senior Men's Amateur a minimum age requirement of 55 and still is? Well, they both were. But Arnold Palmer was only going to play in one of them. 1990, Lee Trevino, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, and Jack and Lee turned 50 the same year at Ridgewood Country Club where I grew up. It was a huge deal. And this week, Richard Bland would be defending, but he's not there because he's a live golfer. I don't know if he asked to be let out of his obligation to play on live. I don't know. All those guys play in every single event because they're obligated to. That's disappointing that he's not going to be there to defend. So that's a loss. What could be an enormous win next year? The event will head to the state of Ohio, and it'll be played at Scioto, which is another Donald Ross that Andrew Green has brought back to life in a way that is just wow. It's dynamic looking, and it's a special place. And it was Jack Nicklaus's childhood home where he learned the game and fell in love with it. You know who turns 50 at the end of this year? Well, you know who it is. It's Tiger. And do you think that he wants to break the record that he currently holds with Bobby Jones of those 9 USGA championships that he has at the childhood home of Jack Nicklaus? You better believe he does. So if Tiger Woods, in his first year of eligibility, plays in the U.S. Senior Open, where Jack grew up in Columbus, Ohio, you think that'll draw an audience and a crowd? You better believe it. It's a special event. It is this week at the Broadmoor, and I hope they have a tremendous championship. For all of us here at Five Clubs, we hope you have a great Tuesday. Tomorrow, Nathan Smith, the captain of the U.S. Walker Cup team, will be joining me. We'll see you then. Have a great day.